to the Genuine Podcast. Thanks for hanging with us. We hope that you enjoy this podcast and subscribe if you like. Let's check into our current topic.
I think that it's important that we really try to get together and get cohesive. So get you a Bible. If you don't have one, that's okay. If you think you're not supposed to have one and only certain people are supposed to read some, we're actually going to talk about that right now. So in Christianity, we have different sections, okay? And I'm going to say a word, and it's not S-E-X, but it's S-E-C-T-S. Sex, okay? Sections of Christianity. And they're divided into what we call denominations, okay? You have different denominations, okay? In math, you have different forms of denominations and things that are how they're divided by. And we're divided by a few things. We're divided by, in Christianity, we're divided by culture. We're divided by belief systems. And we're divided by theology, okay? What we think about the Bible, what we think about God, and what we live like, okay? There are lots of denominations in Christianity. Even within those denominations, there's different sections of those denominations. So you can have the major ones like Baptists, okay? Presbyterians. You can have Methodists, okay? And then, of course, Catholics. By the way, Catholics. Talk to my Catholic brothers and sisters right now, okay? My fam. Catholics. I love you. You're amazing. Love the priests, most of them, anyway. Love all of you. But I'm going to let you know, there is no actual separation between Catholics and Christians. I talk to lots of Catholics, and they say, well, I'm Catholic, I'm not Christian. I'm like, well, that's the same thing. If you're on the outside looking in, a lot of people get confused by that statement that y'all make, which is fine. You know, I get it. You think, I'm Catholic, I'm not Christian. But the truth is, they're the same thing. What you might say, though, is you're Catholic and not Protestant, okay? Backdrop. The church was started, okay? A couple hundred years after Christ died and was resurrected, the disciples had pretty much been gone, and the church was continuing to grow and trying to flourish. But there were some things that happened where Christianity was oppressed, where Christians were being killed and martyred and things like that. And you want to know how we got church? This is kind of where it came from. The church was meeting in houses and homes and in hidden places. They were meeting in public parks and other things that they could in cities all over the world. They had gone beyond just Jerusalem, and Paul had reached out to a whole bunch of people. So now there were churches that were lasting and growing in different cities that were not necessarily Jewish communities, which if you understand the Bible, the original people that Jesus came to speak with was his own people called the Jews. And after he died, after he died and was resurrected, the opportunity to know God and to be of God's people, okay, to be the same people like the Jews, if you will, but not Jewish. We'll get into that sometime. I promise. I promise everything I've told you that we're going to get into, we're going to get into. Give me time. Okay, slow down. Don't ask and jump ahead. We're going to get there, okay? But we get into that. The world opens up. The opportunity to know God comes to every man and every person and woman, if you're really picky about the word man, okay? But let's just say mankind. The whole world opens up to know God. It goes from just being this one particular type of people to the whole world. Has the opportunity, not everybody takes that opportunity, but has the opportunity to know God, okay? So, jump forward again, a couple hundred years. The Roman Empire started letting people build and move into buildings to congregate. It's where we get the word congregation, to gather, to congregate. So if you ever hear the word congregation, that's where that word comes from. You might be saying, well, everybody knows that. No, friends, not everybody knows that. Let me give you an example. Congregate is a 9th grade reading level word, okay? Maybe 10th grade. Some people don't even read at a 5th grade level. And I'm not judging people. Listen, I think, first of all, our education system is jacked up. I was taught, maybe forced to read, and I love reading. And sometimes now I don't love reading, but I can read, and there's a huge difference, right? But some people didn't ever have to read. Some people didn't even have to learn. Some people just aren't good readers. Some people don't even read English very well. And some people don't talk like me or fast like me. They talk slower. I'm not biased against anybody, and I'm sorry if you feel offended, I'm not calling you slow, stupid, or dumb. I don't think that's true at all. I think actually that you're probably one of the smartest people. I mean, I know a guy who can't read at all. He can't read a newspaper, can't read the Bible, but he can listen to it, and he knows the Bible really well because he listens to it and he can repeat it. You know, I know people that can't read or write, but they own multi-million-dollar businesses because they know their craft, and it doesn't require the same things. And they hire people to help them read and write. So it can be done. And so when I try to explain words that seem basic to you, and you get it, somebody else may not. And that's why I'm trying to be generous with what I do to explain it. So congregate means to gather, okay? Where they were gathering, congregations. When they congregate around the pool, when they congregate around the barbecue pit, you know what I mean? It's usually guys, right? But every once in a while you get the girls who like to grill, so hey, shout out to the girls who like to cook for their fellows. But you get congregations. Now this emperor, the Roman emperor, lets them congregate, and you start having buildings associated with Christianity, and that's where we get churches. So we went from being the church to being in churches. Okay, so church does not necessarily mean building. Okay, it's a reference point for where we meet and where we gather, but church is not actually what defines church. Okay, or buildings don't define church. All right, that's not what we're supposed to be defined by. So, giving you a little bit backdrop on that, want to keep going forward. So, as the church went along, it started developing and things, and I'm going to do some things that maybe challenge your thinking, or maybe even challenge where you came from or what you believe. Like I said, I'm not against anybody. I'm just trying to show you what I believe happened and where constrictions happen. I believe that everybody in almost every denomination is doing their best. I don't think that I'm trying to rebel against any denomination. I'm just trying to explain things that get you closer to God personally because He said you could. And that already hits some people right there, that you can't get close to God. Well, that's part of your thinking. That's part of your upbringing. That's what I'm trying to show you is we're going to show you in the Bible really soon, next 2 podcasts or so, where that's wrong. And I'm not trying to say you're wrong, okay? I'm trying to show you, if you look at it, if you read it for yourself and look at it, you have the opportunity to know God for yourself. Why go through somebody else if you don't have to? Why not go to God directly? You think God's going to strike you down and kill you? You think He's going to hate you? He's not going to like you? You think that you messed up so bad, or that you're just an evil person, or that you're not doing right, that He won't talk to you? I'll give you one sentence from the Bible that explains God's love and mercy. Okay? Let me open up my Bible and I'll show you so that you don't think I'm just quoting it, misquoting it. Check this out. The book of Romans, okay? New Testament, book of Romans. Basically in the middle of the New Testament. Chapter 5. I'm in verse 6. Romans chapter 5, verse 6. For when we were still without strength, in other words, strength to be holy, strength to be good, in due time, Christ died for the ungodly. Now, why would He die for the ungodly? Why would He die for people who weren't worthy of His love, of His time? Okay? Think about that. Doesn't make sense, right? Check this out. Chapter 5 still, a couple verses later. It says this. Having been justified, okay? By the way, we have a Christian saying, justified is just as if I've never, okay? So when you're justified, it's just as if you've never sinned, okay? We'll talk about that later because some people say it a lot, but they don't actually believe it, right? But check this out. Since we have been justified by His blood, by His sacrifice, okay, we shall be saved from wrath through Him, okay? Now, this doesn't explain everything I'm trying to say, so let me talk for a second. Basically what that's saying, and you start reading more about the Bible, you start reading the book of Galatians, you start reading the book of Philippians, you start reading the book of, every single book, I guess, in the New Testament especially. But you start reading it, and you're going to realize something, that when you read it, it's talking to you. And when you read it in context, the Bible's talking to people, regular people, everyday people, okay? Back then it was tanners who built tents, right? It's going to be people who did fabrics, people who grew fruit, people who were ranchers, people who were politicians and lawyers over there, people who were tax collectors. Today it's welders, right? It's doctors, okay? It's everybody. It's janitors. It's grocery workers, right? Grocery stores are awesome, by the way. Please send me free food. Just kidding. But restaurant workers, everybody. It's anybody. Christ did not limit himself to a select few. In fact, that was one of the biggest issues in the Bible, is that the apostles and the people who wrote, the Apostle Peter, the Apostle John, and the Apostle Paul especially, they were writing to stand against some people who had come in and said, Christ died for everybody, but you got to have certain things in order to get in to the family, and you got to have certain knowledge and to be cool enough to have revelation, okay, which is revealed knowledge. Revelation, if you ever hear that word, revelation means revealed knowledge, which means that God has opened up the curtain and shown you an insight onto how he functions, how he works, or what he's going to do, okay? It does not necessarily mean it's a new thing of the Bible. It simply means it's a greater understanding of his nature through the Bible, okay? Rewind that, listen to it a few more times, okay? Revelation is God revealing himself in a greater way, not in a different way, but in a greater way. Too many people say, I got fresh revelation, and they're coming up with certain things like, well, God doesn't care if we sin or not. Not true, okay? Not true, all right? But does God forgive every sin? Absolutely. Do we continue in the sin? See, there was somebody that came out with a revelation not too long ago that God doesn't care if you sin or not. It's going to be okay because he'll forgive you and whatever. And that you can do, basically it turned into you can do whatever you want as long as you repent. You're good. Not true. The Bible specifically has reasons against that. That's what Paul was writing against, were people who taught that, and he had to set the record straight. So, anyway, if it happened then and it's happening today, you're going to have to deal with it the same way that they did, by listening to the good teaching, all right? So, going back to wherever I was, right? We've been justified just as if we've never sinned by his blood. We're being saved from wrath. What does that mean? That saved from wrath is what I want to get to you. Some of you think that Jesus, if you knew him personally, or you tried to go to him directly, or you want to talk to God, surely God would kill you, right? Surely God would mess you up and judge you and throw you into the pit for all your mess behaviors, for all your bad thoughts, for all your cussing, your drinking, and all the habits that you're hiding from the church, but you're trying to respect God. And I'm not saying you don't respect God. I know that some people, you take off your hat when you pray. By the way, I do have hair. It's there. Some people think I have a shaved head because I always wear a hat, but I just like hats. Some people think that, some people, respect God so much that when they come to church, they're as quiet as they can be respectful to the Lord. Man, that's the fear of God in the earth. That's wonderful. The fear of God is not, I'm deathly afraid of God. It's an honor and respect of God. Now, a lot of people don't live like that anywhere but church. You come to church and you're very respectful, but when you go out, it's party hardy all day long and do whatever you want, and then feel bad about it. And the truth is that a lot of people do know when they're not doing the right things. In fact, I would say that most people really truly know that they're not doing the right things. And they know that God would be, quote unquote, disappointed with them. But the truth is that it's their own disappointment that's showing them that. Well, sometimes we call it conviction, but sometimes it's condemnation. And the difference between those two words is this: conviction. To convict something, right? If you're a convicted felon, or if you're convicted, that means the crime is proven, right? Okay, well, in Christianity, conviction is the love is proven.
Hey guys, thanks for hanging with us. If you enjoyed today's podcast, hit that subscribe button and share with someone you know. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes, and we will catch up with you on the next episode.